dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are focusing on the so-called blue wall with stops in Michigan and Wisconsin. The final weekend ahead of Election Day marks the end of early voting in most states, including Georgia. CBS's Christian Benavidez reports from Atlanta.
As the race for the White House is entering the final weekend, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are making their final pitches in Wisconsin Friday night.
I will give a middle-class tax cut to over 100 million Americans. We will enact the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging on groceries.
New controversy erupted after Trump railed against his longtime critic, former GOP Representative Liz Cheney.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
Cheney helped to lead the congressional committee that examined the former president's role in the January 6th insurrection. Trump doubled down on his remarks during a stop in Michigan Friday.
If she had to do it herself and she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it. So it's easy for her to talk, but she wouldn't be doing it.
Here in Atlanta, a steady flow of people came to this polling place in the Buckhead neighborhood for the final day of early voting here.
The border is a major issue, not to mention the economy and numerous other things.
I think she has a respect for the people of the United States, and wants to really represent their interests, and I don't think that of the other candidate.
Georgia's Secretary of State went public to refute a bogus video alleging to show Haitian migrants voting multiple times. Christian Benavidez, CBS News, Atlanta.
U.S. intelligence agencies believe that fake video is the work of a Russian government disinformation campaign. The first 2 days of early voting are now in the books in Kentucky, and we are on pace for record turnout this election. Maggie Rickerby breaks down the numbers and focuses on a ballot measure that may be driving more people to the polls.
225,696 Kentuckians came out to vote early this Thursday on the first day of early voting. Amendment 2 is proving to be a hot topic for voters here in the Commonwealth.
We want to make sure that we give parents more choice so that they can offer those choices to their students.
This really isn't the parents' choice. This is the schools that are getting to choose.
The proposed amendment would allow laws to be passed for the state to fund private schools with public dollars. Supporters like Senator Douglas say passing the amendment would benefit not only parents, but teachers too.
For them to also have other options of how they present and how they utilize the skills that they've learned in their profession of teaching to help teach students.
But opposers like Superintendent Billy Parker say passing Amendment 2 would send money to private schools that don't have the level of accountability that public schools hold.
It takes away a lot of guardrails that are there to protect all of Kentucky's children, and that's the part that's pretty scary for me.
Amendment 2 does not specify how the state dollars would be used. Douglas says passing the amendment would simply provide the legislature to allow the General Assembly to get involved with how kids in Kentucky are educated.
Then if we want to take the further step and say, okay, what kind of policy are we going to develop once we have this opportunity? Then we can become engaged in how we fund this.
Parker says supporters have historically tried to pass voucher bills.
It really makes me struggle to believe that if you've already tried to pass bills that have vouchers included in them, why all of a sudden are we not thinking that direction?
Early in-person voting will continue again on Saturday for its final day. In Lexington, Maggie Rickerby, WKYT.
We do not yet know the number of voters who voted out, or turned out rather, for day 2 of early voting. The Kentucky State Board of Elections addressed a viral video from a Laurel County voter. The video showed a machine's touchscreen failing to register the voter's presidential pick. Laurel County Clerk Tony Brown shared this video yesterday showing how it works. The Attorney General's office also sent an investigator to the polling location, but no additional issues were reported. Officials say the voter who posted the video was able to cast her ballot correctly. The state board advises voters to make their selections clearly and report any concerns to the election officials or the Attorney General's election hotline. That number is 1-800-328-VOTE. Folks gathered in Harlan County tonight to honor the life of State Senator Johnny Turner. Turner was an attorney that served in the House from 1999 to 2002 and eventually became a state senator in 2021. Aside from his political career, friends and family say he was a giving person whose big heart will be missed throughout the region.
As a friend, he's been just that. He's been a friend to me. We have shared a lot of laughs through the years. We've cried together at times. He's been there for celebrations in my life, and we've been there through tough times together as well.
Senator Turner's funeral is at 11 tomorrow morning in Harlan County. Turner was 76 years old. Funeral arrangements are set for a former Southern Kentucky police chief. Elijah Holland died on Tuesday. He served in law enforcement for 34 years, including 17 of those as police chief of the London Police Department. Holland's visitation will be on Monday from 10 a.m. till noon at the Bowling Funeral Home Chapel in London. Holland's funeral will take place immediately following the visitation. Elijah Holland was 77 years old. A federal jury has convicted a former detective of using excessive force on Breonna Taylor the night she was shot to death by Louisville police officers in 2020. Earlier, the jury cleared Brett Hankinson on a charge that he used excessive force on Taylor's neighbors. Taylor was fatally shot by other officers. A separate jury deadlocked on similar charges last year, forcing a mistrial. It's the first conviction of a Louisville police officer who was involved in the deadly raid. A man in Laurel County has been arrested and charged with strangulation. Sheriff's deputies say Wednesday night just before 9 they went to a home off East Laurel Road about 14 miles east of London. There they found a woman who said she'd been strangled, hit, and had a knife wound to the hand. Deputies took 70-year-old Richard Evans into custody. The victim was taken to the hospital for her injuries. With plans for a new prison in the mountains moving forward, people on both sides of the development are preparing for what comes next. The Federal Correctional Institution, which is expected to be built on a 500-acre property in Letcher County, would hold more than 1,400 inmates on a former mining site in the Roxana community. While some folks have been championing for the build for decades, saying it will bring opportunity to the area, others are arguing against the need for the space, saying it will only bring more harm.
I guess the thing that has motivated me and our people is that it will provide, they tell us, 300 or 400 good jobs.
The average life expectancy for a correctional employee is 59 years of age, and many suffer from PTSD, anxiety, depression, and suicide.
The next step for the Bureau of Prisons to purchase the property, which supporters say they are looking forward to. However, those against the build believe there are environmental factors that still need to be addressed prior to construction. Officials with Food City announced they collected more than $2.1 million for flood survivors. Food City partnered with several organizations to raise money. The money will go to survivors in Southwest Virginia and Northeast Tennessee.
We had that cold front come in, and because of that, our observed high temperatures weren't that warm, especially compared to what we've been seeing. Here they are, mostly that 60 range, from 63, some places even getting to up to 72 degrees Harlan, but overall definitely cooler than the upper 70s that we've been seeing. The overnight lows for tonight, though, we're expecting to be in the 40-degree range, with some places hitting that 30 mark, 39 for Pikeville, Manchester, Somerset, Monticello. So it's gonna get cool, definitely cooler than we've been seeing, but more on track to what we normally see this time of year. We will, however, warm back up again if you don't like the temperatures you saw today, and looking more into the upper 60s with more places seeing that 70-degree mark being hit. 71 for Harlan, Middlesboro, Williamsburg, and for Grundy. And as we go through the next couple days, we'll continue to see ourselves warm back up to the upper 70s yet again before dropping back down into the 60s for your Thursday and your Friday. We'll also have some chances of rain associated with those drop in temperatures we have at that later half of that week. Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday and Thursday morning, that's when we'll see those rain chances coming into our area. But let's take a look at that catnap forecast. Today's cat is Merlin from Rebecca. And as we're going into tomorrow, you can see those temperatures will stay quite nice for your cat to take some good rest. And if you want your cat to be featured on the catnap forecast every Friday for the morning newscast, I do this. And you can submit that on the WYMT First Alert weather app. And as we go into the next couple of days, our ARH 7-day forecast, where your weekend is always in view, there are those chances once again for those rains starting on Election Day and clearing out by the time that Friday rolls around. Steve?
Megan, thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight. The ARH Sports Overtime is next. Have a great weekend.